And I would be happy to sign them afterwards.
Okay, great.
So it's okay. Hello. You all just arrived today or yesterday?
I arrived late yesterday and I'm on my third day today.
Very good.
I'm supposed to turn up on Wednesday because I wanted to be here and start the whole showering situation.
It is nice if you can come early, but it's
But
also
then I had a flight for 5 days before I came, and I thought, I can't fly like this. I changed my flight.
No, I think the best is to just surrender your circumstances and
Every time.
yeah, if you have a rigid plan, it really doesn't serve you well. So there you are. Yeah. No, I know throughout the duration of the retreat, no photographs. I'll let Shweta do it for her program tonight, but in the meditations that we do, yeah, I would prefer not to. It's really just very personal in our group and not to be sure. And it's not about me, it's about the miracle of dry fasting. So I don't want to be a figure for dry fasting in that sense.
You don't like the hero.
Well, I think I am a hero in some sense because I've brought so many people to dry fasting, but I don't want that kind of recognition. Yeah, I would prefer not. Hello. So you've all just arrived yesterday then, most of you? Yes, and you're all fasting? Yes, very good. So I won't ask much of you, just relax, be very comfortable. Even if you need to lie down somewhere, that's completely fine with me. And I will just say before we start, we have some more minutes. Shweta, you tell me when you think we should start. We give them a few minutes, yeah. But during the meditations too, so I will be leading a meditation every morning from 8:15 to 9, and it's the same thing. There will be some yoga, but it's not. Don't be frightened. I never do yoga when I'm dry fasting. It's really gentle stretches. It is important to cut out some of the achiness. So I've modified things, and I modified them when I was actually fasting, not when I was, out running. So that you should find them appropriate, I hope. Hello.
Hello, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Please come in. You're on time anyway. Hello.
I'm really
Very good. Yeah. And how many people have come from Europe?
Europe.
From Europe. And yes, has anyone come from Russia? Yes. And
From Russia.
from Russia. And how about the United States? Quite a few. This is extraordinary because, of course, when I was coming, no one had ever come from the United States before. So to see a crowd of you is sort of extraordinary. And then I know we have some South Africans. Yes. Anywhere else? Australia. Canada. Québec?
Yes.
Oui, alors bienvenue.
Yes.
Yeah, anywhere else that I didn't reach? Australia, Canada. Yes, that's really the reaches of dry fasting. The branches are growing because hello. Please find there are plenty of chairs.
No, I'll just grab it. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was really mostly Russians when I first came to dry fast. So it's really nice to see that the discovery of dry fasting is reaching throughout the world, and I hope that you will spread the word too, because I think people are still find it very frightening, and they're so hot on this mythology that you're going to die if you go 3 days without water. So, if you can, share your experiences, because I think the science is so important. Yeah. So let's see, how are we doing? So it's 8 o'clock. So I think I'll start. Yeah, so are we all set here? You're all set. Okay. So, well, welcome to Montenegro, or rather I've come after you. I just arrived a couple of hours ago from France. But anyway, welcome to Montenegro. And I want to, first of all, congratulate you for taking this brave and courageous step to embrace the science of dry fasting and take your health into your own hands, and also express gratitude on behalf of myself and all of us to Sergei Ivanovich Filonov, who I truly believe is a miracle doctor and has discovered this science, or rather taken it from others who preceded him, but then really turned it into a medical practice that has been of such beneficial results for so many people. So bravo for coming and taking this first step. I will say, as I introduce, I think you know who I am, but I'll just give a brief introduction to say that I'm not a medical doctor. I will not be giving any medical advice throughout the retreat, and will defer all medical questions to Dr. Filonov and his team. I do have a PhD, but it happens from Johns Hopkins, which is a well-known medical institution. Only my PhD is in French comparative literature and philosophy. So autophagy is something I had to research on my own as a trained researcher. I'm a former professor, and I've become now a writer, not just of this book, but since my recovery, I have 2 more books coming out and next year that are finished, and a 4th one that's almost finished, and then I'm starting the 5th one. So I've really capitalized on getting my lost years back since I've been well. That was very much on my mind for myself. I will also tell you that just as I was saying when you were coming in, that so much has changed. It was easy, relatively, I think, for you to find Dr. Filonov, and that was not the case for me. And you have this marvelous support system, translation services, online programs, a website, access to Zoom consultations, etc. You have the world in front of you, really. And when I did come, it hadn't evolved in that sense at all. And none of those things were available to me. And I was really taking a stab to just a blind stab in the dark in some sense. I didn't have hand-holding when I was doing my prep. I had a short prep. I was trying to translate words with the help of my Russian husband, who also had no medical background. And as you know, Dr. Filonov is not a loquacious man. So I would say, I feel nauseous after this 3-day dry fast, and he would say, normalnya. And I was like, okay. And really, that's something I do want to tell you as part of my introduction, that I firmly believe that dry fasting is the most successful when the patient takes it into their own hands and recognizes that the most important doctor is your own body. And Dr. Filonov is brilliant, but it is your body. And so I think that you have to find the force inside of you. And the support is nice. And it's nice to have me meditate with you and have this other support. But I really encourage you during this retreat and in your future fasts to find your own force, your own discipline, and your own resilience, and to cultivate that almost in an Emersonian way of self-reliance, rather than any tendencies to complain about little things that you think might be going wrong, or wanting too much hand-holding. I really encourage you to stand on your own as much as you can. And I think in my own case, that really helped me, that I had to be strong. I never complained while I was dry fasting. He would ask me, are you doing okay? And I would keep saying, "Ya silnaya, I'm strong," because I believed that finding my own inner strength was integral to my healing. So I think if you compare Dr. Filonov's methodologies to clinics that you might find in some of the Western world, you might complain. And this is not about that. And this science is very special. He happens to be, the only medical doctor who's practicing it. And so again, I think if you just avoid comparisons and find what this is for you and your own lesson in it, I think you'll learn, your body will not only heal from the dry fasting, but your spirit will be strong. And for me, that's equally important. So I put that sort of as part of my introduction. There are even just along those lines, a couple of things I wanted to mention. When I was fasting, I never touched water. I never did ice dowsing, whatever you call it these days. Nothing like that, because I think that there's sort of a fine, dangerous line between coming into contact with any kind of water, and then there's something in the subconscious it's almost too delicious, it's almost too enticing, and maintaining your self-discipline after that, I think it becomes harder. And so I took this very strict, abstemious, austere approach, and I still do. When I dry fast, I don't do ice showers, I don't do ice dowsing, ice, whatever it is. I would just caution you on that regard, because I think that it's more effective to keep your own self-discipline when you don't come into contact with water. So I'm just offering that to you. And anything that I do offer, it's coming from my own experience, and it's meant to be helpful. I never want to evangelize. I have no interest in doing that. You do as you wish, but I'll just offer to you what I have learned with my own experiences. So that all being said, when it came to finding Dr. Filonov, I didn't bring any water because I didn't want to drink water in front of you. But whenever I'm giving a book talk, I always have water. So if my voice sounds a little gravelly, it's just because I was trying to be respectful of the fact that you're dry fasting. And it always bothers me when people are drinking water in front of me and I'm fasting. So don't mind my voice. But I wanted to say that it was, yes, for me, a true miracle to have found him. And when I did land on my feet again, after having nearly lost my life to Lyme disease, I didn't want to tell anyone that I met, anyone knew that I had ever been sick. It was, I really wanted to just, I wanted to just shed that whole skin, that whole era of being ill. And so I went on, and I wanted to just be this happy, bright person who could share light with others and not dwell or harp on what this disease had been. I wouldn't even say my disease. because I so much wanted to say thank you for the lessons of Lyme disease, and now I will happily go forth. So until this book came out, or unless I feel the need to discuss my book with someone, I don't say, oh, I had Lyme disease and autoimmune disorders and such. For me, I found it very important to shed that persona of being someone who was ill. And again, like, carving a new identity of someone who was healthy and vibrant and had something, positive to share with the world. And for myself to go forth and reclaim my health, I found that it was very important not to associate myself with that negative energy, if that makes sense to you. And I will open it up afterwards. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about my story. I'm going to read a little bit from my book, offer the opportunity to ask some questions, and then I'll sign books for you. So yes, that being said, I wanted to state that I wouldn't have spoken about my illness except for the fact that as soon as I did get well, I found it to be a moral imperative for me to write this book, because I thought I had other books to write and I was so behind after 6 years of being sick, but I thought I have to write this book first, because if it can help even one person, it will be worth having written the book. So for me, it's, as a very private person, it's the joy of being able to pay it forward, which I hope you will also do. And it's when I read these reviews on places like Amazon, or someone might send me a message and they say that they have recovered their life through dry fasting, I'm really flooded with tears, because it's such a great gift for me to know that they reclaimed their life because they found this method that they would not have found, that was so obscure at the time that I discovered it through this Byzantine path. So I encourage you that when you do reclaim your health, or wherever you are in your journey, maybe you have wonderful health and you're just doing it for an immune reset, which I frequently do now, but still, I think that paying it forward is also part of sharing your own light when you regain it. So I wanted to put that forth for you. I think that you all, is there anyone here who doesn't know my story at all? Because I wanted to keep it very minimal. Is there anyone who just has absolutely no familiarity with my story? You don't. I will just quickly shift through it to say that I had been a very high functioning person. I was a university professor. I was a marathon runner. I was involved in volunteer work. I was a musician. I was high energy, and just mysteriously, I started to just lose my faculties. I had strange aches and pains, and it was very mysterious. And I went through all kinds of testing, and it was a long process to discover that I had late stage Lyme disease, that it had become embedded at that point. And I had a whole host of other things with chronic fatigue. And I tried the whole medical methodology, even though my whole life I had been, organic, vegetable based. I mean, I had a very clean diet to start with. I exercised, I meditated. I wasn't eating whatever these things are, hot dogs and sitting on couches. That wasn't me. So I fell ill while I was already, a person who had been very healthy and fit. So it was mysterious, and it was perplexing and alarming to be so young in my early 30s and feel like I was losing control over my body and my mind. And finally, when I did get the diagnosis, I was on antibiotics for a very long time, and I would have reprieves. And I tried a whole host of alternative methodologies in conjunction with allopathic medicine. And by the time by the time I was really bedridden in 2017, and I don't even like to say this because I don't like to plant any negative thoughts into anyone. I had thought, I have nothing left to give. I'm going to commit assisted suicide. And I informed my family and my close friends, and I was surprised that they actually understood instead of trying to discourage me, because I was a mess. I was bedridden. I was no help to anyone. I was really not myself. And it was then that I found Dr. Filonov, and I just decided on the spot that I was going to try dry fasting. And so I thought that nothing I could feel while dry fasting would be any worse than how I already felt. So I figured that I could, pardon my vulgarity, suck it up and dry fast. So I did that, and then I was able to go to Siberia for 2 months. And under Dr. Filonov's care, I dry fasted for 2 months and recovered, and went home, and then I dry fasted again by myself. And that was 6 years ago this month, and I haven't had any symptoms from Lyme autoimmune. I also had candida, nothing. And I went back to running every day and skiing and things I would never thought I could do again. I had lost my memory, and I was able to start writing philosophy again. So everything came back to me. I didn't know that was possible. I thought once you had lost your cognitive abilities, that they were permanently gone. And I thought, if I don't have my brain, what am I? So that it was this, again, it was just miracle after miracle to land on my feet and not only get my life back, but all of a sudden I had this wild productivity and renewal. So that's sort of my story in a very quick version of it. And to this day, I'm eternally grateful to Dr. Filonov, and I continue to dry fast. Even though I haven't had any symptoms, I do feel that it's very important to maintain your immune system. And I travel I'm in perpetual travel mode, and that's so I always have things that are taxing me in some sense, and then I'm not immune to the stresses of the world. I'm not an automaton, so I find that dry fasting to reset the immune system is an excellent way to maintain your health. And Dr. Filonov has encouraged me to do that throughout my life, and that's certainly my plan. I don't get colds and flus and allergies the way that I used to, and I did have COVID, but I had been out skiing, and I didn't know it until I was at an airport trying to get somewhere, and they wouldn't let me go, and I was just out running in the woods while I was recovering from COVID. And I credit dry fasting to my immune system's ability to fight that off. So it's a science that I very much believe in, and I hope that it will continue to be developed. I hope that, I would love to present myself to a lab. I would love for mainstream science to understand what dry fasting it is and what the potential is, to see all of you here and to see so many more people using this science to heal themselves is really encouraging to me. So I did want to say that. I would like to, just to inspire you, I'm going to jump around a little bit. I thought I would read to you a little bit from my book. Just some passages while I'm in Siberia and I'm about to start on a 9-day dry fast, and then a couple from later on in the fast, and then somewhat afterwards. So I'm going to jump a bit, but to just inspire you as you're starting off on your 9-day dry fast. That's just what it's meant to be. So I think that is what I will do now. Yeah. And I've been wearing my contacts since I left Paris at like 6 a.m. this morning. So everything is a little bit blurry right now. But basically, yes, we're in Altai. And Dr. Filonov is addressing me on the night before I start my 9-day dry fast. You are strong enough to do this in spite of your weak body. You have the spirit of the Siberian Altai mountains. His voice rose in a crescendo as he concluded, proclaiming, "You are like the native ones from Altai. You will go home and shine and write your books." I walked away trembling in a mélange of hopeful disbelief at the thought of shining. If my body was a temple, it had decayed over the past years to the point of being nearly condemned. But this doctor gave me hope that it could be renovated. The results of the 7-day fast had showed me it was possible. Dr. Filonov said that my body was lagging behind my mind and my will, or spirit. Can it catch up? He says that I will be able to write again. Could I really come back to life? I believe him. After the 7-day dry fast started to clear out the Lyme cobwebs in my brain, I thought, have I been hiding behind this Lyme disease? I never thought my brain would work properly again. Having lost my purpose as a professor and writer, I had checked out of life. Dr. Filonov's uplifting pep talk made me want to come out of hiding from the shadows of my illness. Since we weren't allowed to have dinner the night before a dry fast, I spent my last evening sipping water that poured right out of the mossy Siberian mountain into my purple metal thermos. And I'm sorry that you can't experience that right now, but just, imagine being there in some sense, because it really is quite magical. I couldn't take those last sips for granted, for they'd have to last for 11 days. I didn't make it to 11 days. I told him I was going to do 11 days, and he kind of set me straight about that. I wanted to set an intention on this symbolic evening in the most magical place I knew. I walked down the dirt road lined by sky-high Siberian pine trees interspersed with gleaming white birch trees until I reached the clearing where the glacial Katun billows down from the sacred mountain of the Buddhist Shambhala legends, Balucha. And I would still love to climb that mountain. If you heal, perhaps you can climb Balucha one day, I thought. I sat on a gray rock the size of a chaise lounge, as close to the fierce azure water as I could get. The Katun seduced me, for I had stagnated for so long. Flow, it said, just flow. No stagnation, no fear. Let go and flow. Under the warmth of the Altai sun, I pulled my worn journal out of my pocket to set an intention for my fast. This is a rebirthing we are witnessing. As I prepare to dry fast for 9 to 11 days with Dr. Filonov, I know that this is a fight to get my life back. I am stronger than these disease cells and spirochetes. If this radical treatment of starving myself in Siberia works, I vow to share it with others who might be close to burning out their own wicks, too. My intention, as I set it here and cast it into the Katun, is to be vibrant and produce meaningful work that I can share as a testament to the resiliency of the human body. I have told my mind, body, and spirit what their upcoming jobs are. My body is the doctor. My mind rests. I repeat that. My mind rests. And my spirit holds space for the body to work. Ya Gatova, I am ready. I may have been the most eager person in history to starve as I prepared for this important segment of my medical journey to fight Lyme. I walked back to the center with purpose in my step. And I'm jumping to my day 8 of the dry fast. I'm in Siberia. I feel good. I am happy. I've had nothing to eat or drink for 8 days, and I have not slept indoors once during this time. I am precisely where I need to be. I am healing. I will be well. So I was feeling quite optimistic in my day 8, and I was generating this on my own. I'm putting this out as a seed. When I woke up before dawn on the infamous day 9, I wondered if it would seem harder on this day, but I still felt good. I sent my report to Dr. Filonov. WhatsApp showed me the 2 tiny blue check marks immediately, indicating that he had read my message, even though it was only 5 in the morning. He must have kept his ringer on to wait for my incoming messages. He was a little bit worried about me, and I was his first American patient. So I was trying to reassure him all the time that I was perfectly fine while I was dry fasting. So then I'm skipping again to when he had me break my fast, just the next day on my day 10. Sergei Ivanovich stood up and paced in the cabin, so I knew that we were coming to a close. I had grown adept at reading his nonverbal cues. Now you will rest. We will have an exit lecture when you have recovered. I have healed people of serious conditions, including cancer, but they didn't always follow my exit instructions when they returned home. You will have to dry fast 1 day a week at home with great discipline, no matter what the circumstances are. Then you will also dry fast for 7 days every 3 months. We changed the protocol since then. But I will give you all the instructions that you need while Christina is still here to translate for us. You are very brave, and I'm very proud. Having concluded, he came over to hug me. And there I am exiting and took the opportunity to journal. I knew it was important to mark this day in my journal. So before I surrendered to sleep, I wrote, September 21st. It is a day of profound rest. I have much to write, but it must be done later. Dr. Filonov says that the first 5 days after a dry fast are critical for my immune system, so as my body is generating brand new strong immune cells, regenerating white blood cells and creating new stem cells. Although this cellular work is intangible to my naked eye, I can feel that my body is working diligently. My intuition says that my body must rest deeply now, including my mind, so I shall put my books and journals away. And then I did heal, and I did recover, and I go on in the rest of the book really to talk about the science of dry fasting, and I will discuss some things about exiting and going home with you too, really from my own trials and errors. But at the end, I write, I've written this book because I know I'm not an anomaly. We all have the innate capacity for cellular rejuvenation, but so far it's largely untapped. Shed the toxic label sick. While I was dry fasting in Siberia the first time, I fell on this formidable Rumi poem that imperatively told me to take an axe to the prison wall, escape, walk out like someone suddenly born into color. Do it now. I did it. And now I'm giving you the most powerful axe that you will ever receive to break out of the prison for good. The Lyme patients I have met and coached, I really wish I had never put that word in the book. I don't coach Lyme patients. A few people begged me to help them, and I tried to do the best that I could, but I'm not a doctor, just to repeat. Anyway, the Lyme patients I met all led extraordinary lives before the disease extinguished their light. Each one was in possession of a vitality that, while it had grown dulled by illness, shone once again after dry fasting. Your body carries inherent knowledge in the DNA of your cells. The fountain of youth has rested heretofore latent within your own body. You are a pioneer when you start dry fasting. If you embark on this journey, you will discover a resilience within that will make you soar. As the ageless wisdom of the Upanishads imparts, Joy comes from being in harmony with the creative forces of the universe. And it can be so for all of us if we cleanse our body, mind, and spirit in quest of an extraordinary new normal. Today, my joy comes from spending quality screen-free time with animals, friends, and family, hiking in the mountains, running to happy songs, playing my musical instruments, and writing books that could make a meaningful impact on others' lives. It means being less connected to the internet so that I can be and savor the beauty in this world. My journey, as epic for me as the adventures of J.R.R. Tolkien's hobbits were for them, has brought me back to my nicheness. That's my nickname, niche, my joy and my vitality. I share it so that you too may find your ipseity, that which makes your spark within inherently you. I wanted to write a memoir on recovering from a debilitating illness that robbed me of my cognitive faculties, my creativity, and my ability to function in what became a decrepit physical body. I felt compelled to write this memoir and handbook for dry fasting because thousands, if not millions of people could be helped by my experiences. I felt a moral obligation to write it and share it widely to pay it forward. Once you are rejuvenated by the scientific miracle of autophagy that Dr. Filonov has perfected, please pay it forward to na zdrowie, to your health. So that's some of my book. Thank you. Thank you. And when we go through the meditations every day, I've really geared them towards where you are in your fast, sort of a beginning, a middle, and I don't really want to talk about the exit yet and when you go home. My only hope that I will say for now is I do hope that you're not thinking about food or what you might eat when you're not dry fasting. And if you do, I just gently encourage you to let that go and just be in the moment and not make it food-based or see yourselves as being deprived. I will leave the rest of that for later. And I will talk about my ideas on exiting and going home as you exit, because I've had my own trials and errors. But for now, when we begin, so for tomorrow, I will ask that everyone who's coming to meditation, you're certainly not, obligated in any sense, we'll be doing some nice breathing. And it's really about self-love and supporting yourself, being your own support system. And I'm going to invite you to, set an intention for your fast. So we'll do that together, and then some gentle stretching. And then there'll be maybe a couple of evenings where I'll do a yoga nidra for you, because some people have a hard time sleeping as the fast goes on. And I almost don't want to tell you this. I seem to not be one of those people, and I will sleep for 13 hours. So I find that the meditations really do help with that. So I will lead some yoga nidra in the evenings. You would just be lying down like in a shavasana corpse pose, and it just really relaxes the body and prepares it for sleep. So I think that's enough for an audience of people who are not supposed to be taxing their brains. And I would like to open it up. I will tell you too, last thing, I thought I would do some dry fasting with you in solidarity. So maybe the last 7 or so days, I will lead the meditations and dry fast along with you, just out of solidarity. But I'd like to open it up if anyone has any questions. And when you do, please state your name for me.
Okay, I'm Maria, and I'd like to ask, how long how many dry fasts did it take when you were completely well?
I would say that I did a very good prep. And I would say after the first 7 day in Siberia, it was already dramatically improved. Then after this, the first 9 day, my exit was difficult. I felt like I had the flu. I was quite tired. And because of that, I thought it didn't work. It hasn't worked because I'm tired. This is just like the chronic fatigue. But I had put my trust in this doctor, and I decided to surrender all of that because I think that fear is totally unproductive. What I like to do with fear is say, hello, fear. I see that you're there. Now let's open it up to something else like trust. So I think the opposite side of fear is trust. So I decided to trust. And then after that exit, my friends cried when they saw me. So I would say that it was after that first 9 day. But I took off maybe about a month, and then I repeated the 9 day at home. And I did do, he was like, you have been so sick. We should just kind of keep going every few months or so. So I did do that, but I really felt like I was back to writing. I was back to running. I could remember citations from Kant and page numbers. I mean, I was like leaping every day, and it doesn't get old. Like I wake up every day grateful that I can go out for a run. But I would say after the first 9 day, but please, again, don't compare with me. We're all living organisms with different experiences. So we all have our own journeys, right? Yeah, that was a long answer. Anyone else have a question? Yes.
Hi, I'm Stephen. Are you okay?
Stephen, hi.
First of all, I want to say thank you for your book. I think most people in this room got you through that, and I think it's really kind of massive impact. So thank you.
Very welcome.
And even side thresholds, looks like that with something so when having panic and worry, you can have this like this can be your audio book to have as well, and it's really helpful. Oh, sorry, but I can't speak up.
But if you're dry fasting, I don't want you to speak up and tax your voice. I'm happy to repeat anything with my own hoarse voice.
My question, you mentioned about not thinking too far ahead, but one chapter was your crime against wisdom chapter in the book. And whilst I've been leading a disciplined life in terms of diets and with yourself, whilst going through my health journey, and I'm willing to do that for as long as it takes. One thing I visualize is semblance of normality. I know you say in the book you can never go back, but kind of being out for the odd indulgent meal, being out for friends on stage, is that something that is realistic?
Yes.
Life beyond.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I've just been in Paris the last week with friends who roll their eyes a little bit at my dry fasting, and I've been to their dinner parties, and I'm alive and well. So yes, I would. When I say you can't go back, what I meant by that is that you can't go back to that. I don't believe you can go back to that low point of illness. Not that you can't go back to some semblance of normality, but but along those lines, I would say that even now. So I will talk about food a little bit. If it's triggering for anyone, just tune me out. I wake up and I make a green juice every morning. I've been doing it since I was 17. It really works for me. I eat a lot of salad. I've never been a dessert person. So my daily life, that makes me happy. I'm not like depriving myself. But I can absolutely go to dinner, and I'm in Switzerland and France half of the time, and we're not having dinner parties with green salads. So you absolutely can do that, as long as you're maintaining your health. I think on a daily basis, exercising, hydrating, doing maintenance fasting, if that speaks to you. Yeah.
I've always been helpful in that regard, but I have food sensitivity can come out as part of this, and I was just curious as to what that our time after the movement, so thank you.
No, I absolutely assure you that, you know, I'm not eating buckwheat kasha every day in my life. Although I do love it. Yeah. Who else has a question? Yes. What, and please say your name.
My name is Karen.
Karen, again, yes, thank you, Karen.
I have two questions. The first is, you mentioned that the protocol has changed since you first exited from your fast in Siberia, and that you initially had done them like longer ones closer together. I'm just curious to know what your current fasting protocol looks like. If it's similar to what Dr. Filonov recommends now, or if you just found something else to work for you.
So I think that Sergey Ivanovich will always be my doctor. So I mean I haven't been to a doctor for anything. Well, I'm a woman, so there are reasons to go to the doctor. And you know, Dr. Filonov is not an OBGYN, but apart from that, I haven't been to see any doctors. But I absolutely reach out to him and we'll talk to him. But I'd say what in my book, he had said originally a 7-day dry fast every 3 months. That's not feasible in my life, and I certainly don't need to do that. And when we realized that I had really like yeah, I was well, then it just wasn't, and I'm not dry fasting for the fun of dry fasting. So I mean, although I do enjoy dry fasting, actually I find it very peaceful and contemplative. But no, I just don't need to do that. So I really gauge my body. You know, I do have a very full life, and you know, like everyone else, I have, you know, I have stress from time to time, and I find that that's always a good time for me to dry fast. So I'm very in tune with my body, and I kind of know when it's time, not because of some sort of illness symptoms, but because I've just probably taken on too many projects, or I've traveled too much, whatever it may be. And so I will typically do maybe a 9 to 11 day fast in the spring and in the autumn. That seems to be what I've settled into doing if I have time. But I really, pardon?
Those are quite long fasts, but do you do anything like, you know, do you do the weekly fast or anything like that?
So again, I don't want anyone to compare their own journey to my journey. And I, like I said, I travel a lot, so it's not always feasible for, and I do have a lot of commitments. I can't always do 24 hours every week, and that doesn't seem to be, you know, necessary for me either. Also, I run every day, so I mean, I'm not running while I'm dry fasting. So I am also thinking, do I really want to take off a day of running to dry fast? And it's such an individual journey that I don't want to encourage or influence. I really don't want to influence anyone or for anyone to compare themselves to me. I'm very strict on that point. This is your journey, and you have to get in tune with your body. And I think the meditating helps with that. And when you reach a higher state of wellness, you will know what you need and when you need to do it. I will say, if I do a spring or an autumnal dry fast, I do find that in some places in the world where I travel, the pollen is so horrendous, and it's just increasingly egregious with climate change. And I find that when I do the dry fast around, say, ragweed pollen season, I could really rub it on my face and it doesn't bother me. But if I don't do the dry fast, you know, I'm puffy and swollen and sinusy. So I gauge around that, but everyone has their own thing. You know, ragweed might not bother you at all, right?
My other question was, what are your other books about that you're coming out?
So I never really meant to write a book on dry fasting. That wasn't my life plan, but it had to be done. So they're not really in this realm. I signed a book contract for a novel that I had started writing before I got sick with Lyme disease, which is also strange. I never intended to write a novel, but I was just, this whole idea for a story came to my head before I got sick with Lyme. I started to write it. It's called The Lunatic. It's a play on words. It's not about a lunatic per se. And then when I got sick, I had to stop writing it, but I would close my eyes and tell myself the story when I was lying in bed. And when I got well again, and after I finished writing Starving to Heal, I went to my computer and I hadn't looked at this document since like 2010 or 11, and it was still there. And all of a sudden, it came out of me like projectile vomiting. I couldn't stop it. Like it was like the whole story was in my head. And one weekend I wrote 17,000 words of rough draft. And so and then COVID happened, and it was great timing for me because I took it through 7 drafts. And then I wrote another medical memoir, but that one is the story of a dog who recovered from kidney failure. And because I'm trained in philosophy, I used his story, which was also miraculous, to philosophize about the relationship between the animal and the human. And so both of those books are coming out. That one is called Soulmate Dog. Yes, I wear a locket with a bee in it for Brady, who is the hero of that book. And then I'm finishing up a book of literary criticism on Milan Kundera. And then I have a second novel that I've started working on. So I keep giving long answers. You can tell me to shut up. So yeah, so very different than the dry fasting. But I do have an idea for another book that dry fasting would be a part of. Yeah, so there you are. Yes, hi.
Hi, my name is Judith Castro.
Judith.
And I'm really appreciative of what you've written. It's really been helpful to getting here and just knowing that there's hope. I was very curious, whatever you're willing to share, maybe want to talk generally about. You mentioned intuition, kind of getting tight in your senses. And I know that I'm a counselor, whenever someone makes one big change in their life, there's also this sort of ripple effect. So maybe you don't share necessarily by yourself or others, what are sort of ripple effects that you've noticed?
Well, I mean, for those of you who have read that's a very good question. And I think part of it is that everyone I've spoken with who has dry fasted so far has felt as if this sixth sense has become more present as the fast goes on. And if you don't feel like that, don't feel like what's wrong with me, please. It's just, it's there. It's a feeling, and at least it very much was for me. So some of what you're asking is in my book when I talk about, I always had very high standards for myself and was very achievement based and driven. And so when I wasn't able to accomplish or achieve anything with a Lyme, it was like it gave me this gift of, okay, I'm totally broken. I'm not achieving anything, but staying alive every day. And okay, I guess I kind of love myself. So for me, that was a big part of the intuition, that if I could love myself that broken, that maybe I was good enough to, write these books. And so it actually gave me a lot of strength. And then it did carry out. I mean, I would say that I have a lot more confidence post dry fasting and Lyme than I did before, when I was actually, a tenure track professor with a quote unquote real life, so to me, it was remarkable that did happen. And I just find I'm much more in tune with what I will accept from other people too, my boundaries, my just my sense of interacting with others, and making sure that interactions are positive, and I'm being treated well, I'm treating them well. I think when you treat yourself well, then you're very careful about what you want to allow into your life. So if you're bringing all this light into your life, then you're like, oh wait, that might not be exactly what I want, that kind of energy that I want in my life right now. Is that sort of what you were going for? Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Kristen.
Kristen.
Two questions. One is it's been a little while since I read the book, but I think you mentioned psoriasis very briefly.
Yes.
So I was just curious how that affected you and you saw feeling good.
Yeah, so I did mention it in my book, that I was just thinking about that the other day. I had these horrible skin patches, and I would wear long sleeves, and even when I was by myself, I couldn't stand seeing them myself. And everyone wanted to put me on medication and said that I wouldn't be able to get rid of them. And it was after my 7-day dry fast, and I was in the banya in Altai, and I finally got to take a shower. And I ran my hand up and down, my knees and my elbows, and I couldn't believe it. It was like brand new skin. So I haven't had any psoriasis since those, and that was the 7-day dry. That was like my third fast. Mm-hmm.
The second question is what you did mention you eat a lot of salads and whatnot. Do you eat fish regularly, or can you just share a little bit about your general life?
Okay. I don't want to talk about food has not set in. Does this bother anyone?
Everybody wants to drink.
Exactly. No one has. Exactly. Well, then we won't talk about liquid. No, I would say I absolutely do. I eat fish. I try to eat high quality, wild caught fish. Someone wrote a review on Amazon saying that this book advocates for veganism, which is totally fallacious. I had stated in the book that I had been raw vegan, but I had so many deficiencies, even being careful, that while I had Lyme, the doctor insisted that I start eating red meat again. And I'm very much on the fence about that. But I try not to. I don't like to define myself or be militant about rigid categories. So I wouldn't say that I'm anything. But I eat a lot of salad. I eat some wild caught fish, and if I'm at a dinner party and my friend has lovingly made a steak, I'm not going to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm not eating that." So if it's made with love, fine. Yeah. So yes.
Were you done? Ready for another question? Were you still going?
Go for it. Yes.
Okay. So what?
Your name is?
I'm sorry, I'm Jessica.
Jessica. Yes.
Okay, so what I'm curious about for you, and I do know everybody's experience is different. I think I'm looking for some hope, maybe in hearing your experience. But I'm curious for you after doing, all of these fasts so put together. I understand like the energy coming back and like the brain coming back and all that. For me, in my experience, I'm feeling that on the inside of my body, but my physical body, the outside of my body, is gotten so weak, so weak. Because I've done all this really well and fasting and recovery. But even a month later, my muscles,
yes,
like I'm so weak where I used to be very active, very strong. I'm trying to kind of remind myself that I can get back. I don't know, there's a part of me sometimes that goes, what am I doing to myself? I'm getting so weak about this.
Mhm.
Even though I know intuitively I'm healing. I don't know, I'm pretty curious, like, the unfolding of you getting your strength back physically and what that looked like, and if you have any hopeful thoughts or something like that.
I do. I do. I'm glad that you asked that question. Because I think that so when I started doing, when I started doing these fasts, I wasn't a strong person. I wasn't running marathons and skiing and hiking like I used to be. So I was weak coming out of the first fasts too. Also, my weight dropped to be quite low because I wasn't too robust to begin with. And I find that when your weight does drop low in a series of fasts, then you do feel weaker. But I've found that in subsequent fasts, like I did do in April of 2019, that's the last time that I was in Altai before COVID. Is that right? Yes. And I did an 11-day fast, and that time my weight did drop quite low again. But I was coming from such a strong place when I started the fast that at that point, a good almost 2 years into the fasting process, within a week, I was back in Geneva. I was back running 5K every day and feeling quite strong. But I think that you have to be very accepting of where your body is and know that it's absolutely possible to get your strength back. And when you do that, then you stop doing back-to-back fasts and you go into rebuilding phase. And then that's what you're working on. And then, you do rebuild your muscles. But I did have that similar experience. I remember also, I used to be able to just get out of the pool and not taking the stairs, but just, fling myself over and I found that my arms couldn't support myself after a long fast to, hoist myself up over the edge of the pool. And I was quite surprised by that. But then in the rebuilding phase, that's when you're really addressing that, and it is absolutely possible.
Thank you, that's really.
Does that make sense to
I
you?
feel very similar in my story as well. And part of me is like, I know that I'm healing, but then I'm also like, but can I really sustain continuing to do this? Because I'm just deteriorating, it feels like.
That the human body is not meant to dry fast all the time. So that's why, I think in the initial stages of healing, Dr. Filonov encourages these back-to-back fasts, but it's not meant to be done on a regular basis for years on end. So then you reach a point where, the rebuilding stage is a part of your healing journey as well. And then you are rebuilding your muscles again and focusing on that. But then you are very mindful too about what you're consuming and that you're using moderation, but you're using the right nutrients for muscle building, because that's important too. So I find that, I've always read a lot of books on nutrition. So I like to just do my own research and then experiment on my body and see what is working the best, rather than just going through a formulaic thing. So I can definitely give you hope in that regard. And I have empathy because I was in a similar situation. Yeah, sure. Yes, I see. Yes. Cleo?
I've been sort of focused on the numbers in my labs for Lyme and infections because I want to have a baby and I don't want to pass Lyme disease on. And so my hope and wish has been to just make those numbers disappear or be in the control range. And so I guess just anything you would share, feel comfortable sharing things around, like the labs. And I'm like the person asking all the labs questions.
I know you're not a doctor, but just from your experience around any of that you would be able to.
Yeah, that's a tricky question for me because I'm such a private person. That there are things I could share that I'd like to just give you general advice and refrain from doing that. But I know that it is absolutely possible to have a baby after Lyme and not pass Lyme onto your baby. And I too was a bit obsessed about my lab numbers, and he had said to me, don't go to the lab after your dry fast. And what did I do? I went to the lab after my dry fast. And now I wouldn't do that, and don't do it because it makes no sense. It's a total waste of going to the lab because everything is moving around in your body. So just, be patient, give it, the time that he has said to give it, which is, I think, 3 months. A year now? Half a year.
I understood halfway around 2 months, 2 months.
2 months. When I was, it was 3 months. And so anyway, when I did go, my Swiss doctor couldn't believe it, and even said that if all my patients went to see this Siberian doctor, he would have to close his practice. So he was a little annoyed actually with how good my lab numbers were. So I would say while you're in the process, we're going to talk in the meditations about what you can surrender. So for you, Cleo, your lab numbers are what you want to surrender. And just be in the present moment and know that all the good things that you want are possible. So I think there was a question over here from Quebec.
My name is Yukio.
Yukio.
Yes. Just concerning meditation.
Pardon?
Just concerning meditation.
Meditation, yes.
Yes. You actually have been meditating for a long time, I suppose.
I guess I should have probably said something about that, so you didn't think they just pulled me off the street to do this. Yes. No, I've been meditating quite seriously since I was a teenager, but I'm also a trained and certified yoga and meditation teacher. I have an advanced 500 hour for yoga, and I've trained. I'm also certified in teaching meditation, but I've worked with so many different meditation teachers that I can't tell you that I'm in a certain lineage, because I sort of like to defy lineages, and I like to develop what I think is working the best, or what could be the most helpful.
Which means you will make us do some meditation, but it won't be a Buddhist koan that we need to meditate and then.
So I don't like
strike us
labels.
with that.
No, there's no Zen, there's no Buddhism, I don't like to put a label on myself for anything. So it's really, if anything, I would say that I do believe in breathing in the light. I do believe very much in inviting in the light, and then letting go of what isn't the light, but you have to recognize that. So we talk about that.
So my question was
Yes.
actually in relation with dry fasting. I suppose it helped you a lot.
I suppose it did.
So it could help us also.
I suppose it could.
Hopefully.
Otherwise, I would not come all the way to Montenegro to hang out with you guys.
We're so happy to see you.
Thank you.
Not just an hologram.
Pardon?
Not just an hologram.
No, not just a hologram. Anyone else? I thought I saw one other hand over here. Both of you. Yeah.
Stephanie.
Yes, Stephanie.
And I just have to say, I'm going to be eternally grateful
that you shared your very personal journey in this book, because this book has already changed. There's more to do, but you've already changed. I hung on every word.
And that really is for me a really big gift. Every time I hear that, you know, I have tears, and it means so much to me because I was there and in my own sense. And so yeah, thank you for sharing.
Person and be able to tell you what an influence it has had in, I hate to be dramatic, but saving another life. It has transformed my life, and I'm not even done yet, but it is.
And thank you for sharing that, and it's very meaningful for me. I also want to say I don't think we're ever, you know, done. Like we're not automatons. We're living, breathing organisms, and there's pollution in the world. There's stress. People die. We get sad. So like our health is never static. We're always in a state of evolving of how we feel. So I also think, you know, since I have gotten really well again, I don't get caught up in perfect health, because I'm a human being. You know, it's messy to be a human. It's just I feel great, but I haven't been sleeping great lately because of worthy circumstances that have nothing to do with health. And so it affects you, and then you just make little adjustments. But I feel like it's important not to get upset or discouraged or even mad at yourself, and say, okay, we make some adjustments and tweak a little bit. So yeah. Stephen, did you have another question?
Yeah. The risk of getting ahead of myself again, one of my questions is following up with Jess at this point. You mentioned about the rebuilding phase afterwards. And you kind of mentioned how is there any way, what does that kind of look like? Something that I haven't really thought far ahead, and I always like to have a little bit of a idea what it may entail.
So that might be something you can let go of, is thinking that far ahead. just to suggest, just to offer that peaceful offering, because you know, my nutritional profile won't look like yours, just like my physical fitness profile won't look like yours. I mean, in the Alps all summer, I go for 30-kilometer hikes, and you know, I go running every day. I'm skiing every day in the winter. I don't want anybody to compare their rebuilding to what my rebuilding is going to be. Maybe you want to go do the Ironman. I don't think, I'm not that good of a swimmer that I can do the Ironman. So we're not going to have the same rebuilding. So what I think, you know, you need to do is, part of what I want to do in the meditations towards the end is like a vision board of you know, how you see your shining, what you see your shining new self, you know, doing, and then you work towards that. But I think that like it's going to be so individualized, and I know for myself too, that you have to just be gentle and accepting of where you are. If you say, all right, I'm going to run a half marathon 8 weeks out after dry fasting, and then you're feeling weak, like you're feeling, then you have to say, okay, that might not be happening, so maybe it would be 12 weeks or whatever it is. But I wouldn't like get fixed on a rigid plan. I would really, again, use your intuition, see how your body is feeling, let your body guide you, and then, you know, and then go for it. I don't know if that's helpful at all, if it's too vague.
No.
I just don't want anyone to like get caught up in having a rigid plan.
In your consultations with Dr. Filonov, he kind of indicated when it was time to work on rebuilding. Is that how it looked? Yeah.
No, it was more that, I mean, he's not a loquacious man. And so, you know how you feel. It's like, I don't think you're up for running this week. As you stated, you know, so you'll know what you feel like. Okay, my body can do a long walk today, but oh, I'm feeling the it's kind, you will know, you will feel it, and you will get an itch to move. I promise. Yeah. Yes,
I'm Peter,
Peter, hi.
and a lot of my questions were answered, and as you spoke, I got also a lot of my questions answered. But as we know the benefits for the body and mind going through dry fast, I wanted to see after you've done all this dry fasting, if you have noticed any change on your personality, something that is connected to the mind and going through all these dramatic changes and healing, getting your cognitive functions back. If you notice anything on your personality that you haven't seen before, or that was new, actually coming with a lot of new energy and a lot of new focus.
That is an interesting question, Peter, and I do address some of that in my book about feeling like I was absolutely not so much of a perfectionist as I had been, and that I felt more content with myself, the way that I was, and things just didn't bother me as things. I mean, I've always been a meditator, so I let things go pretty easily, exhale them out. But I felt that like I didn't even need to exhale things out. I was like, you know, I'm alive and I'm thriving and I'm well. Why would this tiny little thing be of any consequence to me whatsoever? So little things just didn't matter at all to me. I didn't even have to like work on letting go, because there was nothing to let go, because it just didn't bother me. And then I found too that, and I alluded to this with the question about the intuition from Judith, that I do feel that I'm much more, I have much more, my renewed sense of self-love as is has made me protective of the way that people treat me. So I've, you know, in the past I might have made an excuse for someone who wasn't kind. And I was like, wait, no, you really don't get to be kind to get to be unkind. And so I felt that people in my life who were in the unkind category sort of dropped away more, because I wasn't going to let myself be treated like that. So I think that's a pretty conclusive answer to that. Yeah. Now I feel totally naked and exposed. Yes.
I used to play the violin, and I did not any to do that. I found no desire to do my ceramics. It's like the spark is gone from those things. Still, has any of your artistic, in addition to the writing, so that's one of art that you mentioned, music, has that come easier?
Yeah, I physically was not able to play my musical instruments, you know, for that period of time. Or if I was, it was very intermittently. And yes, I do. I play my cello, and I also play saxophone, and I play all the time. I play for my family. I play in different, I played my cello in Italy last summer. I got invited to play in a string quartet. So I would say that all definitely did come back. And I didn't ever plan on writing a novel. If someone had said, you are going to write a novel, I would have laughed at the notion of that. So I think that creativity has come out in ways that I couldn't have made a plan, Stephen, and said, all right, this is my rebuilding is going to look like. All of a sudden, it just like, I was hiking in Verbier this summer, and this idea for a new novel, just like the whole thing dropped into me. So it's like, I find that once all that sludge is out of my body, and then I feel like it's out of my mind and spirit, I'm open to all of these new possibilities. And then I really wanted to leave myself open. So I would say that, yes, I think things that you loved to do and your joie de vivre, it's absolutely there. But if you imagine, you know, something that's beautiful, that's covered in sludge, it can't really like blossom because the sludge is too heavy. So I think you've removed the sludge and then it blossoms again. That's my very sophisticated analysis. Remove the sludge and it blossoms again. So I think it's getting late for everyone, and I would love to sign books for you if anyone would like to you know, purchase a book, give it as a gift. I would be happy to sign your books. And then, you know, when we are together every morning, I do plan to meet with you every morning, 8:15 to 9. I don't even expect you to be sitting up. There are yoga mats for everyone. If you bring your, you know, your little blanket or throw or whatever, and you just need to be lying down, I don't expect you to have perfect meditative form when you're dry fasting. You can come, close your eyes, just listen, or, you know, share something that you want. There are no expectations for you to be, you know, perfectly aligned Buddhist meditators. It's really to support you wherever you are, and it'll be more, you know, we'll do breathing every day. We'll do some meditation, different ones every day. And we'll, like I said, we do some stretches that are really geared towards just the sort of, you know, uncomfortable sort of your dry fasting feelings that you might get. So that's, so you will see me again.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you for you know, coming out and sharing, and for your great questions. And it's really a joy for me to meet you and see you taking your health into your hands. And I wish you wonderful dry fasts, very peaceful dry fasts.